Edwin Frondozo on the Business Leadership Podcast every week for a unique program featuring insights and actionable items from the world's most successful business leaders. Hear firsthand the exclusive interviews and personal journeys on how today's transformational leaders made it to the top.
Hello, everybody. It's me, it's Edwin. Thank you for joining the Business Leadership Podcast. I'm really excited to share today's episode. My guest today is Humza Teherany. He is the CIO of the Canvas Group Canada, CEO of Canvas Digital Labs, and also the president of the CIO Association of Canada. I really enjoyed our conversation. For one, it was my first time taking the podcast on the road, so I had an amazing opportunity to see their fairly new offices in the west end of the Greater Toronto area within Mississauga. I got to check out their innovation lab, see some of their new technology that they're working with and they're integrating with. And during our conversation, it was just amazing hearing his story, how he grew as a leader, what he found out by asking directors how he could help them achieve their goals, and what he learned from software development to hardware infrastructure, and ultimately how he developed his personal brand by harnessing the business mindset and wrapping it up with the technology background that he had. So I'm sure you will enjoy the conversation as much as I did. Hello everyone, Edwin Frondozo here. Welcome to another episode of the Business Leadership Podcast. It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Humza Teherany. Humza is the CEO of Compass Digital Labs and also the CIO of Compass Group Canada, with over 20 years in driving technology and business strategy, while directly contributing to both top and bottom line results. Prior to Compass Group, Humza worked at Allstream, the largest enterprise telecommunications company in Canada, where he was Director of Business Transformation and IT Enterprise Architecture. Humza also has held various technical and management roles at Bell Canada. Humza is a invited keynote speaker at various North American conferences every year, focused on technology, innovation, and driving business results. Lastly, in his spare time, Humza serves as president of the CIO Association of Canada. Welcome to the show, Humza.
Thanks very much for having me.
Awesome. So first off, thank you so much for inviting me to your fairly new, beautiful office here. It's actually the first time that I took the podcast on the road, so recording in person. So thank you, A, for getting me out of the office. But what I want to do is I want to get started with you, Humza. Please tell me a bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you like to do?
Well, thanks, Edwin, for having me on today. I think it's great. I'm excited about this project and excited to hear a whole bunch of the other folks that are going to be on it as well. I was actually born in London, England. I'm going to take you back right to the beginning. I was born in London, England. My parents immigrated to Canada when I was about 3 years old, and so I lost my British accent, as you can tell. And we've been in Canada ever since. And I've had the opportunity to have a great career and career opportunities here in Canada. And at the moment, what I do is support innovation across North America. As part of this large organization that I work for, Compass Group, and I get to do some pretty exciting things, and I'm pretty lucky at some of the opportunity I have to drive innovation in the marketplace.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to get more into how you're driving innovation. But what do you, just to get a bit more about who you are, what are you doing on your spare time, and what do you like to do?
Well, I love to run. I love to work out. I love to play basketball. I grew up playing basketball, and basketball is one of those things that, when I'm on the basketball court, I really forget about everything that's going on in the world. For that hour or 2 hours that I'm playing, it's pretty well the only thing I can concentrate on. It's staying competitive and staying fit to be able to enjoy myself while playing.
Awesome. That's great. It's glad to hear that you're keeping fit as well. So back to you and your job. Tell us about your current role here at Compass Digital Labs. What are you guys trying to do and trying to accomplish here?
So Compass Group is a $16 billion U.S.-based organization. Actually, we're based, our headquarters is based out of the UK. We're a $30 billion global hospitality company. In the U.S. and Canada, it's about $16 billion. And what we do is we support food, hospitality, and retail services across the world, in the United States, we have about 250,000 employees. Around the globe, we are the sixth largest employer on the planet, so we have about 515,000 employees. We run around 30,000 retail stores across North America, and then we also do services. So, for instance, we will be running the concessions and the luxury boxes in a stadium. We'll be running the retail in your university. We'll be running a retail or services in a hospital or in an airport. And we run in what's called non-traditional retail. So most of our operations are not street front, but we do run also some high-end restaurants. And we also do big events like the Oscars and the Grammys. We'll do really, really high-end catering and services for events like that. And it's pretty diverse. It's pretty diverse.
Well, it's pretty amazing. As I looked into the Compass Group around it, I was really impressed in terms of the scope they did. I guess in terms of the top level, where else does the organization need to or are looking to grow? If you're already in the stadiums, in the schools, you have restaurants, where else are you guys growing?
Well, I mean, it's a big marketplace, Edwin. I think the potential to have, there's a lot of organizations still that are doing self-operated food service and hospitality. So, we believe that, we're experts in doing that, and our ability to run retail, consumer experience, food, hospitality services, that's what we focus on. And so we believe more and more people will want to outsource that, those pieces of work and do the core things that they're really good at. And it is a very big marketplace, so we continue to grow in that marketplace.
So along with the Compass Group, you're also the CEO of Compass Digital Groups. So I'm really curious to find how the Compass Digital Groups came upon from a food service industry giant like the Compass Group. I mean, how did you get there?
Yeah, 5 years ago when I started in Compass, I was an employee of one, and there was really no other technology, forward-facing consumer engagement technology folks. So there was a fairly decent technology team, an IT team, but nothing really around consumer experience. And so, today we sit at an organization which is 60 people and growing, and those people are supporting innovation and technology across North America. A lot of the way we grew that, to answer your question, was we started to show business results very early on. So it was really about talking about not just the technology, because there's so many people that can bring technology to the table, but it's what are you going to do with the technology? How are you going to drive business results? And so very early on, we got involved in our sales process, and we started to craft these really beautiful digital stories of how, as a retail and hospitality company, how we could layer digital on and understand human experience and human-centered design and really impact that consumer journey. And that really resonated with our clients, and it really grew organically from there.
Wow, it's really great and really, really refreshing in terms of hearing how it grew organically, being human-centric. Can you share maybe an experience that myself or our listeners may have gone through, not knowing that it came from this internally from this project?
Yeah, if you go into the Hamilton Ticats, if you go to Tim Hortons Field to watch a CFL game, we recently launched an app there that does mobile pre-order, prepay, and you can do in-your-seat ordering. But we're also at some pretty large university campuses as well. So while you may not see us directly on the street front, if you go watch a Montreal Canadiens game in a box, we run those boxes, for instance. And so we're very much a behind-the-scenes player. We also are one of Tim Hortons' largest franchisees in Canada, so we own and operate over 180 Tim Hortons stores across Canada. You'll never see a Compass person. You'll see a person that looks like a Tim Hortons employee. We run all those stores. So what we like to call a very humble behind-the-scenes player that's serving millions of Canadians every year. We serve 4 billion meals across North America every year. So you look at that scale and the amount of food that we serve in all the different places. More than likely, you're coming into one of our locations. You may just not know it because we don't go to market as Compass Group. It's one of our various companies that operate in the different industry verticals.
It's really crazy. I never knew there was who is one of the largest franchisees of a Tim Hortons, because I just had a Tim Hortons earlier this morning. Having that many locations, Do you get the opportunity to play with some innovation within your assets or within your locations?
Yeah, we do. So, I mean, in a general retail location, we will have things like push marketing, which we do on signage. So we have these connected screens, they're really beautiful looking, and then we've got a couple of people in this office here that would then push messaging, marketing material. We run a platform called Digital Hospitality, and we're now doing. We actually just crossed about $1 million of mobile revenue in that platform. So we're doing every single quick serve restaurant in our platform. So Tim Hortons to Starbucks to every other retail outlet you can think of. And we run that platform in all of our locations in Canada in our top 100 accounts, and we're continuing to roll those out. So as we get more widespread with our implementation of our digital platforms, we get to continue to trial and bring new things to the forefront.
Awesome. And these digital platforms that you bring into your own locations, own service providers, is it an opportunity also to provide that as a service to your competitors?
Yeah, we don't. So we definitely don't sell our opportunities to our competitors. I mean, that is a big part of our competitive advantage as our IP, our intellectual property with some of these technology offerings. But, you can think of the market generally in retail is pre-order, prepay, mobile wallet, loyalty. I mean, all of these things are out there. Every retailer is looking at these things. So it isn't a secret. I think for us, it's our team, it's our user experience designers, it's our data scientists, it's our process of innovation, it's our industry level partnerships with big players like Apple and Google. It's our thought process of how we innovate, as a services and hospitality company, and not as much about the specific app or the specific thing that we're going to launch from a technology perspective. But we're a pretty competitive organization in terms of how we operate versus our competitors. So, we hold those cards pretty close to our chest.
Definitely. Sounds good to me. You started your career in the telecom industry. I mean, like myself, I grew in the telecom world, starting in Nortel and now at Slingshot VoIP. Can you share with us or take us along your career, specifically how you grew and changed going from Bell Canada to Allstream and eventually landing at the Compass Group Canada? Like, what steps did you take to get here?
Yeah, when I started, just when I was in university, I was actually running a little startup. So I was actually doing a startup that was looking at report development and web development back when not everybody was doing it. And so I got an opportunity for a couple of years to run, a pretty small company, but I started to grow and get a lot of clients, and that taught me a lot about the kind of person that I was going to be in business, because I've always had an entrepreneurial streak. So I've always thought of how to make things better. And when you look at something, I'm always looking at how is something working, and is there an opportunity to do things differently to maybe have a better experience or make something particularly better. From there, I had an opportunity to learn a lot and grow, and then eventually find my way into the enterprise space so I could get a little bit more experience of what it would be like to work in a larger company. And I ended up working in Bell Canada for about 5 years. And I did everything. I grew up as a software developer, so everything from software development to building hardware infrastructure for services like voice over IP and IPTV and next generation networks. And I had the opportunity to be really schooled by a lot of really great technology leaders, whether it was development or whether it was on the hardware side. And over time, what I learned in my career, especially at Bell, was that technology is really, really great. But if you can find a way to take technology and actually take that as a basis and apply it to business, and if you can help businesses to grow, well, that would, I thought at that time, that was my hypothesis, that I could start to differentiate myself. And I didn't know if that was true or not. And I met a lot of great people along the way. And one of my colleagues today, we still work together. I remember speaking to him and saying that, if we could find a way to impact the business, because we knew a lot about technology at that time. We were like technology rats. We were like, you have like gym rats and technology rats. I think they're also called nerds, but apparently nerds are cool today. But you have the opportunity to really start to influence the way a business is run. And so that really was what I started to do at the tail end of my career at Bell. I learned a lot. I learned everything that I possibly could. So, for instance, if if somebody was talking to me about a system solution or a software solution, and today, it goes into things like mobile, I know the basics and the groundwork and the build out of software or hardware and how it's done and labor rates and how complex something is. So it's very difficult today for somebody to sit across the table from me and give me a story that I might be sold on, and it might not be the real story, because I can challenge and I understand the technology. The harder part was learning the business. And that's what I started to do at the tail end of my career at Bell, into my career at Allstream, was probably 70% business. And there I started to get involved and work with the marketing teams, the HR teams, the operational teams, in actually taking these pieces of technology and driving more sales or better operational efficiency, and all of those things drive top-line growth or bottom-line growth. There was a period of time, I think, towards the end of my career at Allstream, where I really found, and I stumbled onto this thing, where I was like, if I could just now continue to harness this business mindset with this technology background, then that could continue to give me a really big edge. And I continue to play on that. And I was able to be lucky enough to develop my brand into somebody who now today can bring technology to the table and bring some of the best partnerships and some of the best companies globally to the table to talk about partnerships, and also not forgetting the technology and how important that is. But using all of that and translating that to drive business results. And today that's what I believe my brand has evolved into. And that brand wasn't something that if you had asked me 20 years ago, is that what you think your brand's going to be? I think a lot of it happened through learning, through trial and error. And I firsthand saw that when you actually can help to grow and drive a business, the rest of the opportunities come with it. Whether you want to build the next big thing from a technology perspective, whether you need a budget, whether you want to hire people, whether you want to start your own company, that's really a key. It's a key, because there's great technology leaders out there that can't necessarily speak in terms of the business, and therefore they may not be able to convince the bank or the financier or the VC or their CEO to spend the money to do that great idea, right? So you need both. And I also find that in traditional university, college, these aren't necessarily skills that you get taught. So these are things that you may learn in an MBA course, but it isn't until you get into business and you're figuring this stuff out, and it's real life, that you figure it out. And you got to figure out your own way. Everybody's obviously different.
No, thank you for sharing that. It's amazing to hear how you made some transformational changes personally, from being a tech nerd, tech geek, to really, I guess you would say, you became curious about business transformation and really taking that business level. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was when you made that conscious choice to say, how could I improve the business? And if I could improve the business, how could I leverage the technology? Is that about right?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. The focus for me, I think, along the way became really what is the business trying to do? And that wasn't always an easy answer to receive or it wasn't always an easy question to get an answer to, because in some cases I didn't know the answer. I didn't know in sort of my middle management layer of my career what the senior management of my organization wanted to do. So I had to go out and hunt and find that. And sometimes my senior management didn't know the answer to that. And they knew what they needed to do, but it wasn't kind of like, what are we trying to hit from a revenue perspective? What are we trying to do with customer retention? What does our consumer experience or our customer experience look like? What's going to differentiate our company? What's our company strategy? These are all questions that I really believe, sitting here today, that whether you're a technology leader or you're a business leader, you have to know the answer to. And it doesn't really matter if you're in an enterprise or if you're in a startup or if you're in a medium-sized company. Today, technology is the business. And it doesn't really matter what business you're in. Technology enables your business. Now, it's not meant to say that if you're a food company, you're now a technology company. No, but technology is the basis of how businesses run. And that's something to really get your arms around if you haven't already.
That's awesome. No, that's really great. Lots of good learnings there. The one last question and note, and it's really from the point of that when you realized how you could change the business, and you were within an enterprise or your middle management, you mentioned your challenges was really getting this information. How did you, without stepping on people's heads or jumping over heads to find this information that you're looking for, how did you manage to do that dance?
Yeah, and what I learned along the way in my career was that if you can find a way to make other people successful and help in whatever it is that they define as being successful to them, then you're going to be successful as a byproduct. So it isn't about you. And I think too many times there's strategies that take place in especially large organizations that are IT against finance or vice versa, or pick any organization, not to pick on IT or finance. But what I found early on was that in my quest to get the answers to that, so I could become a better leader and provide a better service, better technology, better ideas to be invited to the table, was really to knock at the door of my peers. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I went and knocked on the door of the director of marketing in my telecom days. Right now, I think I wasn't even at that level yet. But I knocked on the door and I said, hey, do you have half an hour? Do you have 10 minutes? Do you have 5 minutes? And I did that across all the leadership level. And my question for them was, what are you trying to achieve? Because I want to be able to help. And that was it. I want to be able to help. I think we've got some really great technology ideas and business model ideas that we can help with. Let me figure out what you're trying to do and then just give me a shot to bring it back to you. And who's going to say no to that, right? If somebody walks up to you and says, hey, what are you trying to achieve? I want to help you, right? As a human being, of course, you're going to resonate. It comes across as completely genuine, which it was. And I would say that simple mindset is something that it really can unlock the power of leadership and thought leadership and progression in a business by partnering. And I really do, sitting here today, as a CEO of a technology company and inside a multi-billion-dollar global company, the power of partnerships and getting the best out of everybody in a situation, especially in a large enterprise, is really what makes a difference between good businesses and great businesses.
No, that's awesome, and I definitely agree. And you're almost leading me to my next question here. And as your role changed and grew, obviously your teams changed, your responsibilities was always changing, and you had to grow with it. So tell me, how did you adjust and build yourself as an effective leader within an organization, whether it was before here or now, or how you continue to do that?
That's a really good question. I think the main thing that stayed with me the whole way is what we've already talked about, which is how do you drive business results? If you can drive business results in your career, no matter what kind of business you're in, that's very difficult to argue with. And so not everybody's going to like you. I think it's important that you have a career where you work with everybody and you have good relationships with everybody. But let's face it, not everybody's gonna agree with maybe your strategy or whatever. But nobody can argue with the results. So if a company or if a department or in a division, and it doesn't really matter if you're the CEO of the company or if you're a software developer, there's certain things that your team, your group, your manager, your company, and as you move up, it's at various levels, but the strategy is the exact same thing. So if you're able to drive the results, then you become more valuable in the system. And as you become more valuable in the system, you continue to drive those results. Well, guess what happens? More people want to be around you and want to be part of your team because they want to be part of that, because they want to be successful within that similar kind of system. And I think at some point you get to a point where you've got a great collection of and great, very smart people around you, and if those people then continue to drive those results, you now start to scale how big or how fast those results can grow. And that's when you start getting from a good business to a great business, because you go from an individual idea to results at scale that really then start to impact the larger system in a business. And those things are critically important, and I think are overlooked. So if you can drive business results consistently, and you can build great teams that you don't ignore culture, you don't ignore what other people want to get out of it. So I talked about partnership before. As you start to develop a team of people or even colleagues around you, It's important that you help your colleagues will help you. That builds community, that builds culture, that builds a shared cause, and that all drive results. And you cannot argue with results in business.
No, definitely. And I really liked the point where you were talking about really helping your colleagues and your team members. And as your leadership grew within driving business, how did you have to transform to become that not only great leader, but it sounded like you did a lot of coaching? Maybe not so much now, but when you were growing your team and growing your culture and ultimately growing your team's culture, whether it's the organization or just yourself, would you say it's also a reflection of who you are, the culture that you're growing?
Yeah, I think so. I go back to family values, right? I think, the way I was brought up was to respect all people and respect the opinions of all people and help others. And I was always taught that if you do all of those things, then the good things will happen to you. And it's very much a family structure, right? If you think about a family, like you've got your mom and your dad, and then you've got kids, and everybody supports each other, and then you grow up as a family. And I really look at my teams the exact same way. We look at my teams as one big family. And so we're there to support each other. We're there to challenge each other. As goes with other families, not every day is perfect. You may have challenges. But if everybody understands, why somebody may be pushing one day versus why somebody may be complimenting another day, I think all of those things, if you share those beliefs, really differentiates how you get to high-performing teams. There's two gentlemen that are on my senior management team. One of the gentlemen I've worked with for 15 years. In fact, he was with me when we were at Bell Canada together, and then we stayed working together for multiple years, split up for a couple of years. He was doing some different things, but he's been with me for almost 15 years, and the other gentleman's been with me for 10 years. And so when I look at my senior management team, there's inherent trust in that team. And I think regardless of whether you've been working for 15 years or 1 year, you need to build that trust in your management team, because there'll be lots of decisions to make, sacrifices to make as you build a business or a startup or a medium-sized company, or if you're doing a project. You need great people around you. Great people are, people always ask me at various conferences and events and things like that is, how do you define innovation? And one of my favorite answers to that is, it's the people. It's great bringing in great people and leveraging their capabilities and skill with a really great strategy, and you can achieve magic.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Humza. I'm going to change gears a bit. I mentioned at the beginning that you're also, on your days off, president at the CIO Association of Canada. Tell us, what is that association? What's its goals, and why did you get involved in the first place?
Yeah, really, really great question. 5 years ago, I joined the association, actually close to the time that I joined Compass Group. I've always been passionate about, as I said to you at the beginning of our conversation today, about leveraging technology to make the world better. And while that might sound, like a pretty big statement, that's really the quest that I'm on: is how do you leverage technology to make the world a better place? How do you use technology to help people? And whether that's in business or whether that's in day-to-day life, I think it's a great opportunity. I think we've got lots of examples around us in the Canadian marketplace and global marketplace where technology is tangibly making things better for people. With the association, when I joined, we're an organization, Canada's only not-for-profit. It's a not-for-profit organization, but Canada's only national organization for CIOs and senior technology decision makers. I joined that organization, and it was a great opportunity for me to meet other people in Canada. Prior to that, my network was decent, but it wasn't a big network. Today in the association, we've got people from all industry verticals across Canada, and so I joined in the Toronto chapter, and we did a whole bunch of work on events. We brought a lot of the community together with CIOs. There's about 110 CIOs in Toronto that sit on the CIO Association, and it's a collection of people who are CIOs in banks, big technology companies, services companies, the government, various places across Canada. But these are the who's who of technology leaders in Canada that are driving innovation forward. And as I grew in that organization and met people from, Ottawa and Vancouver and Winnipeg and the Toronto area and a whole bunch of other places, my network started to grow, and I started to meet people and learn from people in different industries that, it wasn't specifically what I was doing, but I took something out of what they were doing, whether it was on the people side, the culture side, the technology side, the partnership side, and that greatly helped me build my own strategies.
Sounds like a really good initiative, great association. Do you, after 5 years and being the president, would you say that the association is sort of your peer group, your mentor group as well? Do you go there when you have a question within or a challenge within your business?
Yeah, I mean, we do, we run over 100 events every year across the country. We have really amazing partnerships with, major players in the Canadian marketplace. Today, we stand at 350 and growing senior IT decision makers, CIOs, CISOs, and almost everything in between now with technology. And these are the people that are fueling innovation forward in Canada. I mean, our members collectively represent over $2 billion in buying power in the country. And about a year ago, I was asked to stand for the president's role, and I was lucky enough to be voted in by my peers. And so today, I humbly serve as the president of the association, and we're doing lots of partnerships in the Canadian marketplace to make innovation in Canada go faster. And it's our belief that we've got all the tools in Canada, the brain power, the money, the ideas that are happening, and the startups. I think Toronto is now ranked very, very closely after New York and San Francisco for technology and innovation, talent, and startups. And I'm proud to now, on the Canadian side, have a really great technology team that we're keeping here in Canada and growing this Compass Digital Labs organization in Canada. With the base here, we exist in other places in the United States as well, but we have a strong group of people here. But there's great talent. There's all the recipe for really groundbreaking innovation in Canada. There once was with companies that maybe don't exist anymore, but I think the next generation of those companies is right around the corner. From a CIO association standpoint, we bring the best and brightest technology minds together in the country to keep those conversations going, so that as a country we can continue to have an edge and come up with the next big thing, which I believe we're already doing.
That's awesome, and it's great that you're leading an association across the country that's able really to drive and also have a focus on being Canadian, being a Canadian technology. I know in the past, myself being Canadian, sometimes the successful companies may not be recognized as being Canadian once you leave Canada. So it's really great to hear that, especially within an association, and really driving that forward. So I got a couple of things really before we wind down here, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm really learning a lot from you, Humza, so thank you for your time again. But if I were to ask your team, what is the best leadership quality you possess, what would they say?
Yeah, I would say if you were to ask most people, I guess there would be two things. One is we have a pretty direct strategy on the things that we are doing. So there's very specific things that we're trying to do as a technology organization supporting a $16 billion US North American organization. And so that's very clear to everybody. There's things we do and there's things we don't do. There's deliverables that we have to have by a certain time, and those things are things that we take very seriously in terms of our ability to deliver solutions to the marketplace. But I would say, to answer your question directly, because those things are in place, the best leadership quality I would say my people would highlight would be that we let smart people here at Compass Digital Labs be smart people. We don't micromanage people. We hire the best and the brightest people. So our teams are made up of mobile developers, data scientists, user experience designers, project managers, technology implementation people from from a hardware perspective. We even build out hardware concepts around retail. And we let those people that come in that are very, very smart, coming in from all different kinds of industry verticals in Canada, startups to big tech to medium-sized companies, and do the great things that they do. And I think that's one of the best things a leader can do is get out of the way. Have a strategy. Know that, drive a really great culture. Reward people. Look after people. Challenge people. But get out of their way. There's too many times that leaders get in the way of greatness from their staff. It's a shame when that happens. And so we purposely have a culture of set the strategy, make sure the culture, everybody understands what the culture is. Then just get out of the way. Let people deliver. And when you do that, you see the true value in some of these teams. I mean, our folks do magical work. It's really amazing what we've been able to do with some of these strategies.
I love that. You almost need to paint that on your office wall here. Just get out of the way.
Yeah. It's the least complex thing I think you can do, right? Most of the stuff isn't that complicated.
No, definitely. And to that point, and maybe this might be the hardest question, but we're always learning. I believe we're always learning. And if you could improve one aspect of the way you lead, your leadership style today, what would you want to work on right now?
Well, I think you can never be too organized. And, we support so much work out there in the company and the organization we run in. Literally, thousands of people and projects and priorities that are happening. The question is, how do you keep yourself organized, and how do you keep your team organized? So all of the things that I talked about right now, where it's strategy and culture and people and hiring and business goals and all those things are all really important. If you can't keep organized and keep those priorities straight 365 days a year, people get confused. I get confused sometimes with the numbers of things that are going on. You add that on to the not-for-profit work I do with the CIO Association of Canada, and there's 1,000 things to do there as well. So for me, it's really keeping up to speed with all the things I have to do. Usually on a Sunday night, I'll go through in my head or on my computer all the things that I need to do that week. I'll sort of review my week and make sure I have the priorities straight. And I'll be sure to follow up on things when I need to follow up on things. So I use a multitude of technology services to do that, software services to do that. But I would say at a high level, keep organized and keep executing on the plan that you've set out.
Oh, definitely, I agree with you. And on the organization side, for me, I like to tell people. A lot of people look at me and they tell me I'm pretty well balanced, but I am a student of time management. Given your responsibilities here, you're non-for-profit, what do you do to help manage, your own time? What tip can you teach us outside of the Sunday night things? Like, what helps you keep balanced?
Yeah, I think so is your question on balance in terms of business life, personal life, or is it more on time management in the business life?
I think in my life, I think it's all the same.
Yeah. Well, I would say you have to very purposefully manage your time with all the things that you have to do. So, I mentioned two different things that I do from a business perspective, but you also have your family life, and you've got your health and wellness life as well. So, if you need to go to the gym, if you need to go work out, if you need to go play basketball, if you need to go see your friends, if you need to go out with your friends or family, I think you need to plan all those things out, and you have to be very careful in the way you plan out your weeks and your months. And once you in your career you've got many things going on, the more and more things happen, and it gets faster and faster. And all of a sudden you look back and you go, how the heck am I going to get through all this stuff? So I would say it's very carefully planning out, your days, your weeks, your months, focusing on the things that matter the most to you, both in your personal life and your professional life. It is a balancing act, and I think once you are operating a company and you're responsible for hundreds of people or multi-million dollars worth of strategy or billions of dollars worth of business and business objectives, I think that gets faster and faster. So mastering that at an early stage, I think, is a critical skill.
And I think one thing you really mentioned,
just a couple of minutes ago is really understanding your priorities, and priorities based on clients, on projects, and people who work for you, and your family as well. So it's really understanding your priorities and know everything else is not important. Not to say not everything is important, but your priorities are number one. For me, I have a 9-month-old daughter, so I understand my priorities changed over the last 9 months. So it's really changed the way my outlook too as well, and really understanding my priorities. So
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. So before we end, Humza, can you share any final thoughts, any actionable recommendations that for the future technology leaders that are out there listening, that they're looking to grow their career as well?
Yeah. So I would summarize it, Edwin, with a couple of things. I would say, know your craft. Whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's technology or whether you're a lawyer or whether you're any other, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. The skill sets of whatever it is that your baseline career is going to be focused on, those have to be there. You have to be a great lawyer, a great doctor, a great technology person. Those things are table stakes. So if you haven't done that yet, you're growing that. Get the skills, the technology skills, in our case in the technology industry, and really know your craft and focus in on what you're doing. Number two is, I think, have a very, very, very strong focus in learning the business that you're in. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. We work in Compass Digital Labs, and we work across every single industry vertical almost, probably globally. But focus in on whatever your industry vertical is. Really learn it. Learn how it makes money. Learn how it grows. Learn about your consumers or your customers. I think that's really important. The third thing I would say is that learn how to drive things in a business quickly. People don't have a lot of time. And it might be great if you have a wonderful idea, but if you're going to take too long, people are going to lose interest. So learn ways that you can show the art of the possible. That's a very, very key thing that I've learned along the way, and I continue to build on today. Show the art of the possible. When you show people the art of the possible, they'll want to learn more. It'll buy you the runway to have another day to speak to them or to build something that's a version better than what you just built. Don't try to do it all at once. And I think if you do that, the last part I would say is be consistent, because the more you do that, the more that will be your brand and the more results you're going to drive. And if you have that, you're going to lead to greater things in your career. The last thing I would say is that don't lose your own identity. Don't change. Just because you're a leader, it doesn't mean... I'm a kid from Scarborough. That's kind of where I grew up. And it doesn't really matter where I am in my career or what I'm doing or at what level. I am the same person today that I was 20 years ago. And I think it's important because you see sometimes leaders changing. I think it's important to stay humble. I think it's important to stay grounded. And I think it's important for you not to change as an individual, because I think there's a lot to be learned every day. And I would just end it off by saying, learn every single day. Learn from everybody you meet, and you'll be better because of it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. So to close, Humza, please tell us where we could find more information from you, your company, and perhaps anything else that you'd love to share.
Yeah, well, I would say just find me on Twitter, CEO Compass Labs. You can find me there, and I'm usually tweeting and talking about various things that are happening in tech all over the place. You can stay connected with me there, so I'd love to connect with the listeners on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for joining the show, Humza.
Thanks very much for having me on.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Humza. He's an amazing, amazing business leader. I really loved how he learned how to differentiate himself by harnessing the business mindset along with his technology background, and really enjoyed hearing his story, just knocking on the director of marketing's door just to find out what their goal is and how he can help them reach it. And ultimately, to that point, how he finds to make other people successful by simply getting out of their way. I want to thank our media sponsor, IT World Canada, Canada's leading professional source for technology, news and analysis. And again, thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and leave me a comment. I'm eager to hear from you and how I can improve the show. Until next time, Edwin signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Business Leadership Podcast at thebusinessleadership.com.